At what point will you declare victory?
When there's victory. If there's victory, I think we'll have victory. I think the polls are, suppression polls, and I think we'll have victory, but only when there's victory. I mean, there's no reason to play games.
Huh.
President Trump, in an interview with Fox News this morning.
I can understand why. I mean, his schedule has been absolutely remarkable
brutal
over the past week or so, just like
Super
4 years ago. But you can tell he's really exhausted after quite a run.
So with that answer, amid the reports that he may try to falsely claim victory before all the votes are in, whatever happens tonight, one thing we are very unlikely to get is a concession speech from the losing candidate, a speech that is possibly the most important part of this country's peaceful transfer of power.
One of the great features of America is that we have political contests, that they are very hard fought, as this one is hard fought. And once the decision is made, we unite behind the man who is elected.
I have no bitterness, no rancor at all. I say to the president as a fellow politician that he did a wonderful job.
Mr. Nixon has won. The democratic process has worked its will. So now let's get on with the urgent task of uniting our country.
Congratulations on your victory. I hope that in the next 4 years, you will lead us to a time of peace abroad and justice at home. You have my full support in such efforts.
The president asked me to tell you that he telephoned President-elect Carter a short time ago and congratulated him on his victory.
The people of the United States have made their choice, and of course I accept that decision.
He has won. We are all Americans. He is our president, and we honor him tonight.
He will be our president, and we'll work with him. This nation faces major challenges ahead, and we must work together.
There is important work to be done, and America must always come first. So we will get behind this new president and wish him well.
I have said repeatedly in this campaign that the president is my opponent, not my enemy, and I wish him well, and I pledge my support.
This is America. Just as we fight hard when the stakes are high, we close ranks and come together when the contest is done.
But in an American election, there are no losers. Because whether or not our candidates are successful, the next morning we all wake up as Americans.
Whatever our differences, we are fellow Americans. And please believe me when I say, no association has ever meant more to me than that.
I so wish that I had been able to fulfill your hopes to lead the country in a different direction, but the nation chose another leader, and so Ann and I join with you to earnestly pray for him and for this great nation.
We must accept this result and then look to the future. Our constitutional democracy enshrines the peaceful transfer of power, and we don't just respect that, we cherish it.
Just a moment. But first, a lot happened yesterday to clear the way for the Trump administration to actually recognize Joe Biden as the president-elect. Let's go through how things played out. It started with the state of Michigan's top election board voting yesterday to certify President-elect Joe Biden's win over President Trump with a margin of more than 154,000 votes. 3 out of 4 board members, including one Republican, voted to certify the election results. The other GOP board member withheld his vote. Last week, President Trump welcomed 2 other Republican state lawmakers from Michigan who had been pushing to delay certification in key counties to the White House in a move that many saw as an attempt to influence the certification process. Yes. Yesterday, Michigan's Secretary of State tweeted in part, quote, "Democracy has prevailed. The election was fair and secure." and the results accurately reflect the will of the people. And with that, though the president himself is not conceding, the Trump administration has finally cleared the way for the Biden transition. The head of the General Services Administration informed the president-elect yesterday that he'd been approved as the apparent winner of the election, unlocking federal funds for his transition and allowing him to coordinate with federal agencies even more urgent amid the coronavirus pandemic. In a letter to President-elect Biden, GSA Administrator Emily Murphy wrote, quote, "Please know that I came to my decision independently based on the law and available facts. I was never directly or indirectly pressured by any executive branch official, including those who work at the White House or GSA, with regard to the substance or timing of my decision." In a tweet moments after her decision, President Trump insisted it was his recommendation to move forward with the transition. But he added, "Our case strongly continues. We will keep up the good fight, and I believe we will prevail." The president also tweeted late last night that he will, quote, "never concede," and that his legal challenges will continue. Multiple sources tell the New York Times that in recent days, top aides, including White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, White House counsel Pat Cipollone, and the president's personal attorney Jay Sekulow, all told him that the transition needed to begin. The Times reports that the president continued to solicit advice from Rudy Giuliani, who told the president that his legal options had not yet been exhausted. The Washington Post reports the president was angry about the pressure from his top aides. Quote, he called political advisors Monday to say he had doubts about the GSA initiating the transition, to inquire about whether he could block certification of the Michigan results, and to express reluctance to travel to Georgia to campaign for the two Republican senators facing runoff elections. Despite Trump's resistance, the Post reports that officials throughout the administration plan to coordinate directly with counterparts on the Biden team starting today. Willie.
And another piece of this, Mika, prior to the GSA recognizing Biden's win, a growing number of Republicans now voicing support for the transition process to begin. Senator Bill Cassidy, Republican of Louisiana, tweeted last night after the GSA ascertained the election, quote, "I voted for President Trump, but Joe Biden won. The transition should begin for the sake of the country." Senator John Cornyn of Texas said yesterday the outcome of the election is, quote, "becoming increasingly clear," and that evidence of a systemic problem seemed to be wanting. Senator Rob Portman of Ohio, another Republican, wrote in an op-ed in the Cincinnati Enquirer yesterday, calling for the president's election challenges to wrap up, adding, "It is in the national interest that the transition is seamless and that America is ready on day one of a new administration." Senator Shelley Moore Capito of West Virginia put out a statement saying President Trump's window for legal challenges is rapidly closing and that Biden's transition team should begin receiving briefings to facilitate a smooth transfer of power. And Senator Lamar Alexander of Tennessee said in a statement, quote, "My hope is that President Trump will take pride in his considerable accomplishments, put the country first, and have a prompt and orderly transition to help the new administration succeed. When you're in public life, people remember the last thing you do." Also contributing to the pressure were more than 160 top American executives, business world, calling on the Trump administration to acknowledge the president's defeat. Concerned that Trump's stall tactics are hurting the country, they sent a letter yesterday asking that the administration immediately begin the transition to Joe Biden. Executives who signed the request included those at the top of companies like MasterCard, Visa, MetLife, the Carlyle Group, Condé Nast, Goldman Sachs, and BlackRock, some of which are Republican donors. Separately, one of the Trump's ardent supporters and CEO of the private equity firm Blackstone, Stephen Schwartzman, said in a statement to NBC News, quote, "The outcome is very certain today, and the country should move on." So, Joe, this morning we are 3 weeks past Election Day now. Donald Trump and his small team now of lawyers that gets smaller by the day, still throwing out the garbage, still throwing out the sewage, still trying to cast doubt on the election. But yesterday felt like a moving day where you saw Republicans, business leaders And in a more official capacity, the GSA say it is time to move on.